Everyone feels it at some point. That fire in the gut, that electric energy coursing through your veins. You watch a video, hear a speech, catch a glimpse of who you could become, and suddenly you feel unlimited. That's motivation. It's beautiful. It's real. It's necessary. But it doesn't last. Because the world doesn't run on fire, it runs on fuel. And that fuel is called discipline. Motivation is the spark that lights the match. But discipline is the hand that keeps the flame alive when the wind starts to howl. Motivation gets you to start the journey. Discipline ensures you finish it. Because let's be honest, every great idea begins with a high. The dream is exciting. The plan feels perfect. The energy is unstoppable for a while. Then life happens. The alarm clock rings earlier than you wanted. The workout feels heavier than expected. The work gets boring. The results don't come fast enough. And suddenly, that motivation, it's nowhere to be found. That's the test. Because greatness isn't found in the moment you start. It's forged in the moment you feel like quitting and keep going anyway. It's what you do after motivation leaves that decides everything. Most people live on emotional roller coasters. They start strong. They disappear when the mood fades. They rely on how they feel instead of remembering what they committed to. That's why they don't grow. But you're not most people. You don't want a life that rises and falls on emotion. You want something sustainable, something strong, something real. You want to grow. And growth requires consistency. Consistency requires discipline. Discipline is showing up when you're tired. It's working when no one is watching. It's saying no when distraction calls. It's sticking to the plan when comfort screams for your attention. Discipline is saying to your future self, I've got you. Even when your present self is exhausted, uninspired, and uncertain. Because here's the truth. The world doesn't reward starters. It rewards finishers. The world doesn't pay for ideas. It pays for execution. And execution lives in the hands of the disciplined. You don't rise by being motivated every day. You rise by mastering your habits, especially on the hard days. Because discipline doesn't care how you feel. It only cares whether or not you move. And when you move with discipline over and over, through resistance, through repetition, through rain and routine, that's when growth becomes inevitable. That's when your body starts to change. That's when your mindset sharpens. That's when your bank account grows. That's when your leadership is forged. That's when your destiny shifts. Not in a single moment of hype, but in 1,000 moments of choosing discipline over ease. Because you don't get what you wish for in life. You get what you're willing to work for consistently. Discipline is quiet. It doesn't brag. It doesn't need applause. It's not sexy, but it's undeniable. Because the results it creates, they're permanent. Discipline builds self-respect. It creates peace of mind. It unlocks levels most people will never reach, not because they're not capable, but because they weren't consistent enough. You want to know the difference between success and struggle? It's not motivation. It's how long you're willing to show up without applause. It's how long you're willing to do the right thing before the results catch up. That's the long game. That's the real game. That's where discipline dominates. And here's the secret most people miss. Discipline isn't punishment. It's freedom. It's the freedom to trust yourself, to know you'll follow through, to walk into any room and know that you don't need to talk because your habits already speak louder than your words ever could. Discipline makes you dangerous, not because you're loud, but because you're relentless. You become the kind of person who can't be thrown off track because you are the track. You built the path you're walking, and it wasn't built in hype. It was built in silence, in early mornings, in disciplined nights, in doing the work, even when the world was sleeping. That's where growth lives, not in the idea, but in the execution, not in the promise, but in the practice, not in the motivation. but in the mastery earned through daily discipline. So the next time you don't feel like it, the next time the fire dies down, the next time your mind says, skip it, rest, quit, you tell it this: motivation got me started, but discipline is what keeps me growing. And I'm not here to be excited. I'm here to be excellent. I'm not here for comfort. I'm here for character. I'm not here to chase hype. I'm here to become unstoppable. Because that's the shift, the internal switch that separates a lifetime of regret from a life of reward. The moment you stop asking, how can I stay motivated? And start asking, who do I need to become to stay consistent? The moment you stop seeking quick fixes and start embracing daily fundamentals. Because greatness doesn't arrive in a lightning strike, it accumulates like water over stone. And the tool that carves through resistance is not talent. It's not luck. It's not even passion. It's discipline. Discipline to do what needs to be done without drama. To rise without needing recognition. To keep your promise even when no one's watching. It's the builder of trust. The author of confidence. The source of real power. You don't need more hype. You need habits. You don't need more fire. You need a framework, because motivation can make you feel like a lion for a minute. But discipline makes you hunt like one every day. Not just when you're inspired, but when it's cold, when it's boring, when you're tired, when it's lonely, when it's hard, because that's when character is forged. That's when mastery is written. That's when real growth happens, not in your victories, but in your resistance to surrender. You want to change your body? Discipline. You want to change your finances? Discipline. You want to build a business? Discipline. You want to earn trust, respect, peace, and power? Discipline. Because the most powerful people in the world don't have more hours in the day. They just own more of their minutes. They don't waste time wondering what to do because they've already decided who they are. And who they are shows up regardless of emotion. That's the mark of a professional. That's the mark of someone who doesn't just work. They work with intention. They train. They track. They study. They execute. They grow. Not once a month. Not when it's trendy. But every single day. Even in silence. Even in setbacks. Even in suffering. Because they know the truth. Every time you skip the excuse. Every time you override the laziness. Every time you keep the promise to yourself. You are proving who you are. You are earning respect with every rep. And here's what makes discipline so unstoppable. It stacks. It compounds. It builds a mountain of momentum so massive that soon the cost of quitting becomes greater than the pain of continuing. You don't even entertain weakness anymore because your identity is now wired for strength. Your mind stops negotiating. Your feet keep moving. Your eyes stay locked on the path. Your habits hold the line. That's when you've crossed over. From relying on motivation to living in mastery. From chasing high energy to commanding high standards. From needing the world to push you to becoming the one who pulls others up. That's leadership. That's power. That's how you outlast, outperform, outdiscipline everyone around you. Not with shortcuts, but with standards. Standards that don't move with the wind. Standards that don't fall when things get heavy. Standards that become you. And when your standard is discipline, your growth is guaranteed because you no longer live from your feelings. You live from your foundations. And foundations don't break when the storm comes. They hold strong. So what do you build your life on? Excitement? That fades. Inspiration? That's temporary. Discipline? That's forever. Because forever isn't built in one decision. It's built in 1,000 quiet ones. The decision to wake up on time when no one would know if you didn't. The decision to train when your muscles ache and your mind begs you to stop. The decision to read, to write, to study when the world is screaming for your attention. The decision to stay true when the easier thing would be to quit. That's where growth hides. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't flash a sign. It waits silently behind the doors most people never open, because those doors are disguised as boredom. They're disguised as repetition. They're disguised as inconvenience. But behind them, strength, stability, success. Because the truth is this, the people you admire, the ones who've created impact, wealth, legacy, they weren't just driven. They were disciplined. Driven is loud. Discipline is consistent. Driven starts fast. Discipline finishes strong. Driven gets you through the first chapter. Discipline writes the last sentence. And the longer you live, the more you realize anyone can be driven for a moment. But few are disciplined for a lifetime, because discipline costs you something. It costs you comfort. It costs you popularity. It costs you the cheap highs that come from cutting corners. But what you gain yourself. You gain a version of you that doesn't need a pep talk to perform. A version that doesn't depend on validation to feel valuable. A version that isn't swayed by failure or inflated by applause. A version that is rooted, real, relentless. You gain the life you were always meant to live, not because someone gave it to you, but because you built it. And you built it the hard way. Brick by brick. Step by step. Day by day. In the cold. In the quiet. In the absence of motivation. You built it with nothing but your word and the discipline to keep it. That's where pride comes from. Not from being perfect, but from knowing you showed up anyway. And that pride, that's peace. The peace that comes from becoming someone you don't have to explain. Because your habits, your presence, your work, they speak for you. So if you want to grow, not just start strong, but stay strong. Don't ask yourself what motivates you. Ask yourself what you've committed to. Ask yourself what you're willing to do when no one is watching. What you're willing to build in silence. What you're willing to do every single day without needing hype or recognition. Because that's who you really are. Not what you do once, but what you do repeatedly. And the life you end up with, it won't be the result of a single breakthrough. It'll be the compound effect of relentless discipline. So when your mind says, it's okay to skip today, you reply, no, this is who I am now. When your body says, let's take it easy, you respond, let's grow instead. When life says, you've done enough, you answer, I'm not done yet. Because motivation got you going. But discipline is what keeps you growing. And you're not here to just move. You're here to multiply. Not here to survive, but to scale. Not here to live on fire for a week, but to burn with purpose for a lifetime. And that kind of life, that kind of unstoppable, unshakable, undeniable growth, that's not given. It's earned through discipline every single day. Success doesn't begin with fireworks. It doesn't start with applause. It starts in the quiet, in the shadows. It begins when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when there's no reward, and no one to impress. Just you. And the choice you make in that moment. See, the world celebrates the extraordinary, but what the world forgets is that the extraordinary is built on the back of the ordinary. One simple task done right. One routine followed through. One promise kept even when it's inconvenient. Especially when it's inconvenient. That's what separates the dreamers from the doers, the talkers from the builders, the average from the great. Most people are looking for a breakthrough, a shortcut, some secret that'll skip them ahead in the line. But success doesn't come with a secret password. It doesn't need to, because the path is already visible. It's not hidden. It's just ignored. It's not mysterious. It's just consistent. It's not complicated. It's just demanding. Because success, real, lasting, soul-deep success, is doing the ordinary things with extraordinary commitment, with precision, with pride, over and over, until ordinary becomes excellent, until basic becomes beautiful, until average becomes a memory, and greatness becomes your identity. It's not glamorous. It's not loud. It's not always fun, but it is transformational because the real difference isn't in the result. It's in who you become by doing the work. When you make your bed every morning, that's not a chore. That's a declaration. A declaration that today I will show up. When you say no to the junk food, no to the snooze button, no to the gossip and the laziness, that's not just self-control. That's identity. That's craftsmanship. That's leadership of the self. You don't need talent for that. You don't need money for that. You don't need connections for that. All you need is decision, a choice, and the will to repeat that choice tomorrow and the next day and the next until it becomes who you are. And who you are will always determine what you achieve. Most people think success is an event, a performance, a big win. But it's not. It's a pattern, a discipline, a string of small victories strung together like pearls, forming the necklace of greatness. Every extraordinary result has ordinary roots. Every champion was once a beginner. Every master was once clumsy. But they didn't stop. They didn't quit. They didn't say, "This is beneath me." No, they said, "This is how I rise." They understood something most people never will. Success doesn't come when you finally get noticed. Success comes long before that, when you decide to notice yourself. When you say, "I will give my best," not because someone's watching, but because I'm watching. I'm paying attention. I care. Because the way you do anything is the way you do everything. You want to be great? Start with being good consistently. You want to make millions? Start with managing hundreds wisely. You want to lead others? Start with leading yourself fiercely. That's the truth. And yes, it's not flashy. It won't get you viral attention, but it'll get you something better, something deeper, something that doesn't vanish when the spotlight does. And that is legacy. Let me tell you something. The janitor who sweeps the floor with care, with honor, with attention to detail, that person is already more successful than the CEO who cuts corners, who lies to gain, who disrespects the process. Because real success is not just about what you do, it's about how you do it. And the how is everything. You walk into the room and you notice the chair is crooked. You fix it. That's pride. You send the email and you proofread it, not because you have to, but because your name is on it. That's character. You show up early, stay late, and give your best when no one else is clapping. That's greatness. These are not massive, dramatic acts. They're small, often invisible, but powerful beyond measure. Because they shape you, they refine you, and they build a life that can hold the weight of success. The truth is, anyone can get lucky once. Anyone can stumble into a moment of recognition, but it takes a different kind of person to hold it, to sustain it, to grow it. And that kind of person is forged in the fire of consistency, in the discipline of details, in the honor of doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. You want power, earn it in the silence. You want respect, build it in the unseen. You want success, define it in the daily. And never forget this, the world will only see your harvest, but you will know the root. You will know the hours, the sweat, the solitude. You will know the pain, the temptation, the second guessing, and the choice you made anyway. That's what makes it yours. That's what makes it real. So stop waiting for something big to happen. Stop waiting for the perfect opportunity. It's already here. It's in the dishes, the emails, the workouts, the meetings, the conversations. The simple, daily, ordinary things that done with excellence lead to an extraordinary life. Because success isn't an act. It's a habit. And greatness is not found in what you dream. It's found in what you do. So now, ask yourself, what are the things in your life you've labeled as small, as insignificant, as not worth your best? Because I'll tell you something, that's where your breakthrough is hiding. Not in some grand vision board, not in some perfect strategy. It's hiding in the things you've been overlooking, the things you've been rushing through, the things you've been doing just enough to get by. You see, the universe doesn't reward your potential, it rewards your proof. And the proof isn't in the promises you make to the world. It's in the promises you keep to yourself. You don't become excellent by accident. You become excellent by intention, backed by relentless follow-through, by doing the reps when it's boring, by delivering quality when there's no spotlight, by staying late to fix what no one else will notice because you notice. Excellence is not a skill, it's a decision. And that decision, once made, bleeds into everything you do. When you write a note, make it thoughtful. When you greet a stranger, do it with warmth. When you speak, speak with clarity. When you show up fully. That's not fluff. That's philosophy. That's a way of living. We've been sold a lie, that the way to succeed is to do something huge, something loud, something that makes everyone say, wow. But the truth is, success rarely begins with wow. It begins with, It begins with curiosity, with effort, with trying, failing, adjusting. It begins with brushing your teeth with discipline. It begins with writing thank you notes. It begins with not skipping steps, especially the small ones. Look around at the people you admire, the ones who lead with substance, not style. You think they woke up extraordinary? No. They were forged. Forged by habit, forged by principles. Forged by doing the ordinary things like their life depended on it, because it did. Because your life, your real life, is being built right now in the decisions you think don't matter. But they do. They all do. Every time you hit snooze, that's a vote. A vote for who you're becoming. Every time you speak with integrity, that's a brick. A brick in the foundation of your legacy. Every time you say no to distraction, that's momentum. Every time you clean your space, honor your word, keep your commitment, you're shaping something. Not just your results, but your identity. And identity is the engine of destiny. See, the enemy of success isn't failure. It's indifference. It's casualness. It's the whisper that says, it's just a little thing. But success is built on the mastery of little things. Do you want to be powerful? Then become dependable. Become precise. Become thoughtful. Be the person who shows up prepared, who follows through, who doesn't need praise to do their best, because their best is who they are. I'm not talking about perfection. I'm talking about presence, about care, about being the kind of person who gives a damn every day. In the kitchen, at the gym, in the boardroom, on the sidewalk, everywhere. Because how you do this moment is how you'll do the next. And that's what makes it extraordinary. You ever notice how most people complain about their circumstances but never question their standards? They want a different result, but they keep making the same choices. They want a different body, but they skip workouts. They want wealth, but they spend like victims. They want love, but they give bare minimum energy. You can't live an average life and expect exceptional outcomes. You can't keep treating the basics like burdens and expect to be trusted with brilliance. You think someone is going to hand you success? Why would they? The world is watching what you do with what you already have. The way you manage 10 determines how you'll manage 10-0. The way you lead one person determines how you'll lead 100. The way you treat the small stage will determine if you ever stand on a big one. This is the secret no one wants to hear, that the next level is hidden inside this one. You want to rise? Then raise yourself. Raise your awareness. Raise your attitude. Raise your execution. Ordinary done with excellence becomes unstoppable. It becomes so rare in today's world that it's mistaken for genius. But it's not genius. It's grit. It's devotion. It's discipline married to humility. Because humility is the part that says, no task is beneath me. Discipline is the part that says, no moment will go wasted. Together, they form the bedrock of greatness. Now I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly. Not to me, to yourself. When was the last time you gave something your all, not because of what you could get from it, but because of what it would make of you? When was the last time you pushed beyond good enough and leaned into, what if I made this excellent? That's not ambition. That's honor. Honor in your craft. Honor in your conversations. Honor in the way you carry yourself. And that is what the world is starving for. Not more noise, not more speed, but more depth, more meaning, more people who take pride in the things no one else sees. Because those are the people who build empires that last. Not just externally, internally, spiritually, mentally, financially, relationally. They build lives that cannot be shaken because their foundation isn't made of sand. It's made of substance. And substance is formed in the mundane. So if you're sweeping floors, sweep with elegance. If you're writing code, write it with intention. If you're folding laundry, fold it with excellence. If you're in school, study like your future family depends on it. Because it does. And every single time you choose excellence over ease, you reinforce the truth that will carry you further than any talent, connection, or trend ever could. That success is doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. Because we're not finished until the voice inside you stands up and says, "That's who I am now." That voice has been whispering for a long time, buried under excuses, distractions, and noise. But it's still there, waiting, not for motivation, not for a miracle, but for you. You don't need to become someone else to succeed. You need to become fully yourself, the version of you that's been trying to emerge every time you chose growth over comfort, every time you felt the tug to go beyond what was expected. That version of you is shaped in the quiet moments, the repetition, the inconvenience, the stillness, and that version of you is powerful beyond belief. Let me be clear, the results will come. The rewards, the recognition, the reputation, they'll all arrive in time, but they won't define you. Because by the time they show up, you'll have already become the kind of person who doesn't need them. You'll be the one who leads without a title, who builds without applause, who wins without compromise. And that kind of success, that's not temporary. That doesn't depend on markets or moods or who's trending today. It lasts because it was built on principle, on discipline, on doing the simple things that no one else would, long enough to become someone no one else is. So let's talk about those simple things. The daily rituals, the overlooked habits, the basics that carry more power than most people will ever realize. You wake up, do it with intention. You walk into a room, carry yourself with presence. You speak, do it with clarity, not just volume. You listen, actually listen. You plan your day, don't just write a to-do list. Write a legacy map. That's how you raise your standard. That's how you raise your value. And that's how you raise your life. Because the world doesn't pay for effort, it pays for excellence. And excellence doesn't mean being the best. It means doing your best with what you have, exactly where you are. That's power. And let me say this, if you can't do it where you are, you won't do it when you get to where you think you want to be. The person you are in private will always be louder than the person you pretend to be in public. So ask yourself, what are the ordinary things you've been rushing through, resenting, or avoiding when they might actually be the keys to your transformation? That daily walk, what if it's not about steps, but about self-mastery? That team meeting, what if it's not about productivity, but about practicing presence? That difficult client, what if it's not about sales, but about sharpening your skill to stay composed under pressure? When you treat everything as training, you waste nothing. When you stop ranking tasks by prestige and start seeing every action as a reflection of your character, that's when you move different. That's when you speak different. That's when people start asking what your secret is. But there is no secret. Just decisions. Just standards. Just devotion to what others dismiss. And here's the truth you have to grab with both hands. Most people will never do this. Most people will always chase the shortcut. Most people will always look for the easy way, the trendy hack, the magic formula. Let them talk. Let them quit. Let them mock the details. Because in time, they'll be the ones asking how you did it. And you'll smile not out of arrogance, but out of gratitude. Because you'll know the answer is both simpler and harder than they want to hear. I did the small things well. I did what mattered when it didn't look like it mattered. That's your armor. That's your edge. That's your peace. You never need to fake excellence when you are excellence. And excellence, my friend, is not a finish line. It's a frequency. You don't arrive at it. You tune into it every single day. And when you do that, when you live that way, life becomes different. The noise fades. The clarity sharpens. The doubts get quieter because you're no longer building your confidence on outcomes. You're building it on execution. And execution is king. You'll stop needing permission. You'll stop waiting for the stars to align. You'll stop asking if you're good enough because you'll know, because you've shown yourself again and again, in the kitchen, in the car, at the gym, at the desk, on your feet, in your mind. With every action you take, you reinforce who you are. And eventually, you don't need motivation. You don't need reminders. You don't need anyone to push you because you push you. And that right there is the moment you become unstoppable. Because no one can compete with a person who's committed to doing ordinary things extraordinarily well every single day. And now we arrive at the quiet revolution, the one that happens not in boardrooms or arenas, but in bedrooms before dawn, in notebooks filled with plans no one else sees, in commutes where audiobooks play instead of gossip, in meals prepared with care, in conversations where presence replaces performance. That's where the extraordinary begins. And if you're really listening now, not just hearing these words, but absorbing them, then something inside you has already shifted. Because deep down, you've known all along that success was never about being flashy. It was about being faithful. Faithful to the process. Faithful to your values. Faithful to the future version of yourself you haven't met yet, but are building every single day. There's a stillness in excellence, a groundedness. It doesn't rush. It doesn't panic. It doesn't scream for attention. It simply is. Like a master craftsman, it measures twice and cuts once. Like a disciplined athlete, it trains when it's raining and when it's sunny. Like a wise investor, it sows daily without demanding immediate harvest. It understands something critical. The fruit is not your job. The planting is. The applause is not your focus. The alignment is. And if you get that, if you really live that, your success becomes inevitable, not because the road is easy, but because you become solid, centered, committed. Because when you choose to treat the ordinary with reverence, it becomes sacred. Let me paint the picture even clearer. You're in your room folding laundry, and instead of rushing through it like an annoyance, you fold each shirt with care, with presence, because you understand this is a ritual of order, of clarity, of discipline. You're preparing lunch, and instead of grabbing whatever's fast, you nourish your body with intention, because you understand health is not a luxury, it's a foundation. You're writing that email, and instead of using filler words, you cut through the fluff and you write with sharpness, with dignity, because you understand every word carries weight. Every line builds trust. This is not about being a perfectionist. This is about being a professional. Professionals don't work based on mood. They work based on mission. And your mission, if you accept it, is to become the kind of person who doesn't need a stage to practice greatness, because you are the stage. Every action, every habit, every choice, they are all part of the performance, and your character is the script. So build it well. There's a dignity in this path, a kind of inner nobility, because while others chase the fireworks, you're mastering the flame. And the flame controlled, consistent, focused, will always outlast the spark, because fire that lasts is fire that's tended to. This is how you stand out in a world addicted to shortcuts. You slow down, you dig deep, you do it right. You build a life so strong, so consistent, so excellent that people stop asking, "What's your trick?" and start asking, "Who taught you to care like this?" Because that's what it comes down to, care. Excellence is a form of love. Love for the craft. Love for the future. Love for the people you serve, even if you never meet them. Because make no mistake, when you do your work with care, it reaches people. When you write with excellence, someone feels understood. When you lead with excellence, someone feels seen. When you speak with excellence, someone feels empowered. And that ripple, it's bigger than you'll ever know. So yes, ordinary things done extraordinarily well change your life. But they also change the lives around you. That's the kind of success that doesn't rot. It doesn't fade. It multiplies. It builds trust in a world starving for integrity. It builds influence without the need to manipulate. It builds wealth not just in money, but in meaning. And if that's not success, I don't know what is. So the question now is no longer, what do you want? We've moved past that. The real question is, are you willing to do the ordinary things with extraordinary excellence until the world can't ignore you? Are you willing to become so consistent, so focused, so devoted that people mistake you for lucky when really you're just disciplined? Because that's what this is. Discipline, devotion, deliberate action, not random hustle, not chasing dopamine, not living for likes. Real work, done daily, with honor. And here's the final piece, the part most people miss. You can start today. You don't need a new job. You don't need a mentor. You don't need more money. You don't need anyone's approval. You need to look at the life you already have and start treating it like it matters. You need to look at the tasks you've been rushing through and start doing them like someone who matters is watching. Because someone is. You are. And that's enough. Do it for your future. Do it for your family. Do it for your name. Do it because excellence is no longer a goal. It's your standard. And when that's your standard, success doesn't become a question. It becomes your way of life. Because the crescendo is coming. Not a shout, but a surge. Not a noise, but a knowing. It's the sound of you remembering who you are. Let me remind you, you were not born average. You were not designed for mediocrity. Somewhere along the way, life may have tried to convince you otherwise through failure, through rejection, through the long, cold silence of obscurity. But those things didn't define you. They refined you. And now here you are, standing at the edge of a choice that most never see clearly because they're too distracted chasing magic, while the real miracle is within arm's reach. It's in your routine. It's in your habits. It's in the things you do every day, the words you speak, the posture you hold, the thoughts you repeat when no one else is around. That's where greatness lives. It lives in the brushstroke of a janitor who sweeps like a sculptor, in the rhythm of a chef who chops onions like composing a symphony, in the breath of a teacher who says each name like it matters because it does, in the walk of a leader who picks up trash off the floor not because it's their job, but because they own the space they walk through. That's not just performance. That's presence. And presence, my friend, is power. So here's the truth. You don't need to do everything. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to know the outcome of every move. But you do need to decide that whatever you touch today, you will touch with care. That whatever you do today, you will do it like it matters. That whoever you speak to, you will speak as someone who remembers their own worth. Because success is not a someday thing. It's a this moment thing. And right now, this moment is your turning point. It's not marked with a ceremony. It's not accompanied by fanfare, but it's real. And you'll know it's real. Because from this day forward, you won't tolerate being half present in your own life. You won't tolerate effort without intention. You won't tolerate work without soul. You won't tolerate the narrative that says, it's just a job. It's just a task. It's just a detail. No, it's everything. Because how you do the smallest thing is how you do the next thing, and the next thing is your life. And what is your life? It is the compound interest of every moment you chose to give your best when you could have gotten by with average. It is the reward for every invisible effort you made when it was easier to coast. It is the quiet roar of a soul that decided not today. Not today will I be casual. Not today will I be careless. Not today will I be average. Today, I rise through ordinary things, extraordinarily done. So get up, stand tall, straighten your back, breathe with intention, because the world is not waiting for the next genius. The world is waiting for you, the one who does the ordinary things like no one else is willing to. That's where your greatness lives, in how you wake up, in how you shake hands, in how you finish what you started, in how you refuse to let your name be attached to anything less than your best. Do you hear that? It's the sound of your life shifting, not because something big happened, but because you did. And when you shift, everything follows. Because success is not a location. It's not a title. It's not a paycheck or a prize. Success is doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. Every single day. And from this day forward, that's exactly what you will do. Not to impress, not to prove, but because that's who you are now. And the world will notice. Because excellence never has to announce itself. It just shows up, and so will you. Success is not something you chase like a wild animal. It is something you magnetize. It is not hunted, it is drawn to you, pulled into orbit by the gravity of who you are becoming, not by effort alone, but by alignment, by identity, by the invisible forces you sculpt within. You do not get rich by running harder. You get rich by thinking deeper. You do not gain influence by chasing followers. You gain it by becoming someone worth following. This world is not short on hustlers. It is short on caliber. And the greatest secret they never taught you in school, the truth they buried beneath a mountain of busy work and borrowed dreams, is that the most valuable project you will ever work on is you. Not your job, not your portfolio, not your image, you. Because you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. That is the rule. That is the law. That is the compass you've been waiting for. And if your life is filled with chaos, with drama, with limitation, it is not because life is cruel. It is because you have allowed the patterns that invite that chaos to remain unchallenged. If you want more, become more. Because success is not seduced by noise. It is attracted to depth. It is attracted to discipline, to clarity, to integrity. It flows toward vision, not desperation. It respects focus, not frenzy. It rewards those who build their foundation before flashing their face. The universe is not random. It is precise. It mirrors you. So stop asking, how can I make more money? And start asking, how can I become more valuable? Stop asking, how do I get noticed? And start asking, how can I become so excellent that I can't be ignored? Stop waiting for the world to change and start becoming the kind of person who moves it. You want opportunity? Become prepared. You want love? Become whole. You want wealth? Become wise. You want impact? Become someone of substance. Because substance speaks louder than style. And the world has grown deaf to style without soul. The journey begins inside, and most people will never take it. Most people will spend their lives polishing the shell, decorating the surface, chasing the next thing, without realizing that the thing was never missing. They were. Their alignment, their values, their self-awareness, their standard. That is what determines what you attract. And when you raise that standard, not just in what you expect from the world, but in what you demand from yourself, everything changes. Because you start moving different, speaking different, choosing different. You stop negotiating with mediocrity. You stop chasing validation. You stop explaining your hunger to people who've chosen comfort over calling. And you start building a life from principle, not pressure. That's when the world starts to shift. Not because it owes you, but because you've become someone who no longer waits to be owed. You've become the source, the spark, the architect of your atmosphere. Success is not out there. It is waiting inside you to be unlocked by identity. So who are you becoming? Not what are you doing, not what are you chasing, who are you becoming? That is the only question that matters. because your outer world will never outgrow your inner world. No amount of hustle can overcome a weak self-image. No achievement will heal a fractured identity. No applause will ever fill the silence where purpose should be. So go there. Go into the silence. Go into the mirror. Not to admire it to align. Not to correct the surface, but to confront the root. The root of your beliefs. The root of your patterns. The root of the story you've been telling yourself about who you are and what you're capable of. Because that story is not innocent. It is building your life. Every belief is a brick. Every thought is a blueprint. Every habit is a vote for the future. You are either building a prisoner, a palace. So tear out the lies, rip out the weeds, rewire the code, because you were not born with limits. You were taught them. You inherited them from voices who settled, who shrank, who didn't know any better. But now you do. And once you know the truth, you owe it to yourself to live it. You owe it to the younger you who dreamed before they were doubted. You owe it to the future, you who's waiting for you to stop shrinking. You owe it to the world, because a world full of people becoming their best selves is the most unstoppable force on earth. But it starts with one. You. Become someone worth attracting. Become someone who moves when it's hard, who shows up when it's thankless, who believes when it looks impossible, who builds, not because they have toe but because they can. That is the person success is drawn to. That is the energy that shifts rooms. That is the presence that makes possibility feel real. Not hype, not noise, alignment. Alignment with your truth, alignment with your values, alignment with your next level. Because success is not about luck. It is about alignment meeting preparation, wrapped in identity built through discipline. And discipline, let me tell you, it is not punishment, it is freedom. The world will lie to you and say discipline is restrictive, rigid, cold. But look closer. Discipline is devotion. Discipline is respect for your future self. Discipline is the bridge between the man who talks and the man who transforms, between the woman who dreams and the woman who delivers. Every act of discipline is an act of self-love. Every time you say no to distraction, you say yes to destiny. Every time you choose the grind over the excuse, you are casting a vote for the version of you that doesn't just get by, but gets beyond. Discipline is magnetic. It's not sexy. It's not viral, but it's unbeatable. Because when you can train your body to move before your mind has doubts, when you can commit without emotion, when you can show up regardless of how you feel, that's when the game changes. That's when the world starts to take you seriously. Because you're no longer signaling, I want it. You're signaling, I am it. And that energy, it attracts results. The disciplined person walks into the room and doesn't need to speak to lead. The aura says it all. The energy says, I've done the reps. I've walked through fire. I've mastered the boring days. I've held the line when others broke. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. And alignment cannot be faked. It's why some people with half your credentials rise twice as fast. They're aligned. They don't carry inner chaos into the world and expect peace back. They carry inner order, inner focus, inner fire, and the world rearranges itself around that fire. You must become the fire, not the flicker, not the matchstick, the fire. And fire doesn't beg to be seen. It burns. It transforms whatever it touches. And that is what you are meant to do. You are not here to blend in. You are not here to chase crumbs. You are here to become, to step into such power, such clarity, such embodied excellence, that success starts to orbit you like a planet locked into gravity. Not because you're lucky, but because you've become inevitable. And how do you become inevitable? Through identity reinforcement. It's not enough to know what you want. You have to see yourself as the person who already lives it. You have to wake up every day and act like it's already yours. Think like it's already here. Decide from the perspective of the person who's already become it. This is not delusion. It's alignment with potential. And potential is not realized through wishing. It's realized through wiring. So wire it. Wire it through repetition, through rituals, through a standard so high that mediocrity suffocates in your presence. Because when you live like that, people start to ask questions. They don't ask, what do you do? They ask, how do you move like that? How do you think like that? How did you build that? And the answer will never be a job title. It will never be a resume. It will never be some trick. The answer will always be, I worked on myself until I became someone success could no longer ignore. That's the real flex. Not what you bought, but what you broke through. Not who you impressed, but who you inspired. Not what you earned, but what you embodied. Because money fades, status fades, trends die, but who you are that echoes. And the greatest echo you can leave is not the memory of what you had. It's the model of who you were, the standard you set, the energy you brought, the legacy you left, not in assets, but in alignment. So stop asking when success will come. Start asking, who do I need to become for success to feel at home in my presence? Because when you become that person, success will not be able to stay away. Because once you become that person truly, fully, deeply, you won't even need to chase. You'll move and the world will move with you. You'll speak and doors will open. You'll breathe and people will feel it. Not because you tried to impress, but because you aligned your entire being to something real. See, real power is quiet. It's not the loudest in the room. It's the most certain, not arrogant, anchored, not boastful, built, not frantic, focused. When you are that aligned, you don't get thrown off by storms. You welcome them. You don't fear resistance. You feed on it. Because you've trained your nervous system not just to survive pressure, but to command clarity inside it. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop proving. You start embodying. You stop running after things. You start attracting them effortlessly because you've done the one thing most people never do. You became ready. This is what it means to live at the edge of your potential. You become so complete, so directed, so locked in on truth that the world reorganizes itself around your presence. But this only happens when your internal standards are non-negotiable. Your mornings aren't random. Your habits aren't optional. Your words aren't careless. Your thoughts aren't unmanaged. Your relationships aren't passive. Your time isn't wasted. Because you know, every single thing you do is a reflection of who you are becoming. And who you're becoming is a force. Not a follower, not a passenger, not a victim of the system, a system of your own, a principle-driven, purpose-bound, relentlessly focused architect of outcomes. You no longer wait for the world to offer you more. You offer yourself more and watch as the world starts to match it. Not out of favor, out of formula. The formula is simple, but it is not easy. You take full responsibility, not for the weather, not for the economy, not for what life throws at you, but for how you respond, for who you choose to become inside it. You don't control the waves. You master the sail. And the stronger you become, the more gracefully you navigate. Not because life stopped being chaotic, but because you stopped being reactive. You became sovereign. That's what this entire path is about. Sovereignty. Not control of others. Control of yourself. Because when you control your thoughts, your attention, your behavior, you become untouchable. They can strip the title. They can cut the income. They can doubt the dream. But they can't touch the core. They can't touch what you've built inside. And when your power comes from within, your success becomes inevitable because you've stopped borrowing strength from the world and you've started generating it from your identity. And that is when attraction happens. Not the law of attraction as fantasy, not the vision board with no execution, but the real law that who you are creates resonance, and that resonance draws in the people, the places, the platforms, the opportunities that match your frequency. Because you're no longer asking life for permission. You are life. You are creation. You are the source. Not in arrogance, in awareness. And from that awareness, you act. You move different. You speak with purpose. You walk with presence. You choose with conviction. Because success is not a destination, it is a frequency. Tune yourself to it. Train your nervous system to hold it. Build your body to carry it. Sharpen your mind to defend it. Elevate your spirit to radiate it. Do that. And watch as everything you once chased begins to chase you. Because when success begins to chase you, it's not magics, it's mechanics. You have aligned your input to match the outcome. You've taken full ownership of the seed, the soil, the sun, the sweat, and now the harvest can't help but come. The world has to give way to the person who refuses to be moved off their path. It may take time. It may test your patience. It may delay until you question your worth. But the law remains. The person you become determines what you receive. And if you receive little, it's not a matter of worth. It's a matter of readiness. So get ready. Stop asking for the fruit. Strengthen your roots. Stop begging for results. Build your resilience. Stop pleading with the universe. Become someone who commands it through character. Because success isn't a jackpot. It's not a lottery ticket. It's not found, it's forged. It is the visible proof of invisible victories. It is the applause the world gives you after you've clapped for yourself in silence 1,000 times. So make your silence louder. Make your consistency your anthem. Make your private discipline your public destiny. Because the world doesn't just watch what you do, it feels what you are. And when you're grounded, clear, unshakable, people can't explain it, but they trust you. They follow you. They bet on you. Not because you promise, because you prove. Not once, not in flashes, but in the way you live. And living like this, it's not about being perfect. It's about being principled. It's about knowing what you stand for and standing there even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Because hurt is part of the price. Growth has a tax. Evolution has a cost. And those who rise are not the ones who avoided it. They're the ones who paid in full. They didn't look for refunds. They didn't ask for discounts. They invested everything. Time, energy, ego, comfort, old identities. And in return, they got themselves. The true self. The powerful self. The unedited, unafraid, unstoppable self that no one could give them because it had to be earned. And when you earn that version of you, you no longer need to convince anyone of your value. Your being does the talking. Your presence walks in first. Your energy leaves the echo. This is the life you were meant to live. Not one of struggle and scattered ambition, but one of sovereignty, where you do not chase success. You call it. You don't beg for peace. You generate it. You don't wait for leadership. You embody it because you've done what few are willing to do. You became someone who can carry everything they once dreamed of without being crushed by it. That's real success. Not what you own, but what you own within. Not what you earn, but what you exude. Not the empire you build, but the emperor you become. So ask yourself today, not what am I doing, but who am I becoming? And answer that question not with words, but with action. Consistent, focused, uncompromising action. Because once the person you're becoming matches the life you're asking for, there's not a force on earth that can stop it from coming to you. Because once that alignment is real, once the inner frequency and the outer behavior are in perfect sync, you don't chase opportunity. You command attention, not with noise, with neutrality, not with flash, with foundation. That's when the world starts to listen to your silence more than others' screams. Because your walk speaks. Your habits preach. Your aura confirms what words cannot fake. You don't rise in the world by simply wanting to. You rise when your every action begins to agree with greatness. You rise when your thoughts no longer sabotage your movements. When your environment no longer outruns your decisions. When your past no longer dictates your capacity. You rise because your discipline became identity. And at that level, you attract things without lifting a finger because your energy did the lifting. You attract people who respect the process. You attract opportunities that match your vibration. You attract peace because there is no longer inner war. Most people don't fail because the world denied them. They fail because their inner world didn't match their outer desires. They wanted royalty but walked like peasants. They wanted influence but thought like victims. They wanted overflow but lived in lack. Not just in money, but in thought, in movement, in standards. But you've outgrown that. You're no longer okay with being the almost version of yourself. You're no longer addicted to applause that means nothing without alignment. You're no longer willing to sacrifice purpose for popularity or substance for speed because you finally understand success doesn't come faster by running harder. It comes faster when you become clearer. Clarity creates velocity. Conviction sustains it. And consistency makes it inevitable. So what if it takes years? So what if no one claps? So what if you're misunderstood? You didn't start this journey for applause. You started it because you knew that inside you was something untouched by fear, unshaken by rejection, unwilling to stay small. That seed has always been there. But seeds don't bloom because they're seen. They bloom because they're watered. In darkness, in silence, under pressure. So water yourself with intention. Nourish yourself with discipline. Expose yourself to light not from the crowd, but from the truth. Because once that seed breaks through, once the person you've been sculpting in private shows up in public, no one will question how you got there. They'll feel it. They'll feel the weight of your growth. They'll feel the depth of your evolution. They'll feel the inevitability of your arrival. Not because you were lucky, because you became someone worthy of everything that's coming. Because worthiness isn't given, it's forged. It's not about what you were born into. It's about what you build from within. It's not the titles, not the applause, not the numbers, not the nods. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing I have done the work. And that kind of worthiness, it can't be stolen. It can't be faked. It doesn't rise and fall with the markets. It doesn't disappear when plans change. It doesn't collapse when you're doubted, because it's not tied to anything outside of you. It's rooted in character, in clarity, in the scars you earned and refused to hide. People will try to measure you by results, but results don't tell the full story. Your resilience does. Your consistency, your patience, your ability to stay the course when every part of your old self begged you to retreat. That's what defines you. That's what attracts real success. Because real success lasting, grounded, soul-deep successes, no interest in temporary men and hollow women. It is drawn to those who've burned through ego, who've turned suffering into structure, who've mastered the art of being ready before they're seen. And readiness is rare. Most people wait for proof before they believe. But you believe first. You act first. You become first. Because you understand the universal law. Success is something you attract by the person you become. You don't just want to look successful. You want to live aligned. You want to walk clean. You want to sleep well. You want to wake up, look in the mirror, and respect the reflection. That is the true reward. That is what they can never take. So if you're tired, good. If you feel stretched, good. If you're standing in the in-between where the old you is dying and the new you is still forming good, because that's the place of power. That's the place of becoming. That's where success gets magnetized, not by chance, but by change. Not change in circumstances, change in character. And when that character is forged, when your identity has been rebuilt, brick by brick, moment by moment, habit by habit, you don't just attract success, you command reality. So command it with your walk, with your word, with your standard. Because the future doesn't belong to those who hope it, belongs to those who become. And the person who becomes, they can lose everything and still rise. They can fall 1,000 times and still lead because they are not built on luck. They are built on law. The law that says, I will always attract what I am aligned with. And the more powerful I become within, the more unstoppable my life becomes without. There's something you never get back. Something more expensive than failure, more fatal than fear, more powerful than talent. It's time, the silent currency of your life. And every single second is being spent. The only question is, are you investing it or wasting it? Because whether you rise or remain, whether you build or break, whether you thrive or disappear quietly into the crowd, will be determined by how you manage time. And the truth is, time isn't the problem. You have enough time. 24 hours, the same as every legend who ever lived. The problem is attention. The problem is intention. The problem is what you're allowing to steal the most sacred currency you'll ever hold. You don't need more hours. You need more ownership. Because time is not something you spend when convenient. It's something you command. And if you don't learn to command your time, the world will consume it for you. Every scroll is a withdrawal. Every meaningless conversation is a withdrawal. Every hour spent chasing dopamine instead of destiny is a permanent theft from the life you could have built. And once it's gone, it's gone. No refunds, no do-overs, only regrets for those who never learned how to lead their life on purpose. So how do the great ones do it? How do the high performers, the unstoppable, the producers of massive impact, manage time without wasting it? They don't just fill a calendar. They own a rhythm. They build systems. They protect their focus like it's sacred, because it is. And it starts with a ruthless, unapologetic mindset shift. You stop asking, what do I have time for? You start asking, what must get done for me to live aligned with the future I'm creating? That question changes everything. It deletes distractions. It filters your yes. It activates a version of you that doesn't just survive the day, but designs it. The successful don't manage time. They multiply it. They create leverage. They don't wake up reacting. They wake up with ritual, not from a place of rigidity, but from reverence. Because they understand that every block of time is an altar. And what you sacrifice on that altar determines what you experience in your life. Want peace? Then schedule it. Want freedom? Then earn it through structure. Want success? Then build days that make it inevitable. Start by killing the myth of multitasking. You are not meant to divide your genius across 5 apps, 3 conversations, and 10 browser tabs. You are meant to go deep, to focus with intensity, to move with clarity, to lock into one thing and extract every ounce of excellence out of it. Because depth creates mastery. And mastery is what creates speed in the long run. You want to stop wasting time? Then stop letting shallow tasks steal your peak energy. Stop giving your highest hours to your lowest value tasks. Protect your mornings. Defend your deep work like a warrior. Build a fortress around the first 2 hours of your day, because how you start is how you scale. And this isn't about being busy. Busy is a trap. Busy is a disguise. Busy feels productive, but it's usually just motion without direction. You don't need motion. You need movement with meaning, with map, with mission. That means every minute must serve the vision. Every task must earn its way onto your calendar. Every person must deserve your time or be denied it without apology. Not from arrogance, but from alignment. Because when you know what matters, you stop giving time to what doesn't. Then let's keep going, because time doesn't slow down for those who hesitate. It only honors those who move with authority. You see, once you've taken back your mornings, once you've cut the noise, blocked the leeches, shut down the open loops, you still have to do one thing most people avoid their whole lives. Decide. Decide what matters most. Because not everything is equal. Not every task deserves the same energy. Not every opportunity is aligned with your purpose. Time management without clarity is just chaos with a planner. You must decide with ruthless clarity what moves the needle, what creates the most value, what builds the most momentum, what aligns the most with who you're becoming. And when you know that, your calendar becomes sacred ground. You don't fill your day with tasks. You design your day with targets, outcomes, non-negotiables, battles worth winning. 3 to 5, no more. 3 to 5 moves per day that, if executed relentlessly, create more progress than 100 scattered motions. Because the person who tries to do everything ends up doing nothing that matters. But the one who focuses like a sniper builds legacies. So, structure your day like an empire. Morning for momentum, midday for mastery, evening for review and recalibration. You don't end the day by collapsing into your bed from exhaustion. You end it by closing the loop with excellence. What did I win today? What needs to shift tomorrow? What did I learn? And how will I use it? That simple review, that sacred 5 minutes of reflection, turns scattered effort into strategic momentum. And when you do that consistently, days become weeks. Weeks become empires. And time begins to submit to your structure. Because here's the secret. You don't manage time. You manage your energy inside of time. And when your energy is directed by discipline, when your focus is directed by clarity, when your decisions are directed by purpose, time becomes your servant, not your master. You don't run out of time. You run it. You command it. You use it with precision. And in doing so, you begin to create what most people only fantasize about. A life that reflects your vision, not your distractions. This is how you stop wasting time. You stop living on autopilot. You stop waiting to feel inspired. You stop responding to life like a slave to circumstance. You wake up and you lead your day like it was designed for kings. Then let the final words strike deep, because this is the moment you stop running from your power and start walking in it. Understand this. You are not here to manage time. You are here to master it, to mold it, to lead it like a general leads an army with intention, with strategy, with unbreakable clarity. The reason most people stay broke isn't lack of money. It's lack of focus. The reason most people stay tired isn't lack of energy. It's lack of direction. And the reason most people die with regret isn't lack of talent. It's because they let their time be eaten alive by things that didn't matter. But not you. Not anymore. Because now you see time for what it really is. Not hours. Access. Not minutes. Moments of transformation. Not a clock ticking down, but opportunity disguised as ordinary. You were given a life not to spend it counting time, but to make your time count. So stop saying, I'm busy. Start saying, I'm building. Stop saying, I don't have time. Start saying, I don't make time for things that don't build my legacy. You are not a manager of time. You are a leader of your destiny. And the way you schedule your day is the way you shape your future. From now on, your calendar is a declaration. Your habits are your vote. Your daily rhythm is your resume. And every moment, every single breath is either wasted in distraction or invested in greatness. So no more drifting, no more reacting, no more waiting for the world to give you permission. Wake up early, set the tone, move with intensity, build in silence, protect your focus like gold, design your life like an architect of destiny, because time is not your enemy. Time is not your excuse. Time is not your weakness. Time is your test. And from this moment forward, you don't live by the clock. You live by calling. Let the world watch. Let the hours pass. Let the noise try to distract you. But you rise. You own every moment. And you make time bow to you.